Welcome to the Backfield Buzz podcast, a part of the High Podcast Network. Cody Wiles, Logan Glover, and Andrew Foster here as always, keeping you up to date with all things NFL. Week 12 here. Fantasy playoffs are what, a couple weeks away, fellas? Wow. How time flies. Seems like just yesterday we were dreaming up the idea for the Hive Podcast Network and the Backfield Buzz, but here we are. Frosty, how you doing?
Yeah, better. I'm starting to starting to let the losses the Cowboys are taking just kind of roll off the back now. I'm getting used to it. It's a bit of a nicer feeling now that it's more consistent.
That's fair. It's fair. I'm feeling good, man. I was in the dumps in my main fantasy league. I was deep in the well, and the comeback's been real. I think I've won a few games in a row here. I'm ready for the fantasy playoff push, baby.
Yep. So, as maybe a lot of people out there are, so that's why we're here to give some starts and sits. These could be, these guys on the edge of start and sit. This could be I mean, we could be helping people win or lose their leagues. That's a lot of pressure that us at the Backfield Buzz take upon our shoulders. But let's just jump right into it. So, as we do every week, we do RBs, wide receivers, tight ends. We were not here last week, so I'll just do a quick update. Let's just do the quick update of the standings and where we at. So last week, me and Glover started Chubb, which did not hit. Frosty started Javante. And then me and Frosty sat Najee Harris and Glover sat Tony Pollard. So that's the RBs. All right. So let's get into our RBs for this week. And actually let's start with who wants to start? Who wants to go first?
I'll shoot my start out there.
Okay.
I'm going Brian Robinson Jr. Um, he's been pretty reliable this year, and he's playing the Dallas run defense, which, as we saw and we have seen all season, it's been pretty abysmal. He's still splitting carries pretty evenly with Austin Eckler, splitting touches, I should say, because Eckler gets all the receiving work. But Brian Robinson's their goal line guy, especially with Jane Daniels sitting with a rib injury. Robinson gets all the goal line work. He's always a pretty safe bet for a touchdown when the Commanders get into the red zone. And even if they don't get in the red zone, he gets the majority of the carries while Eckler gets to work on the backfield, which means he's the one who's going to be able to capitalize on the poor Dallas run defense.
Yeah, I have Brian Robinson as well. He's my start. All the same reasons that you said. I think he's pretty much a lock to get into the end zone this game. I'd be shocked. Dallas just gave up three rushing touchdowns to Joe Mixon the last game they played. I'd be shocked if he doesn't get in the end zone again this game.
Solid option. I went with Ramondre Stevenson though against the Dolphins. Miami's inside the top 10 in fantasy points and touchdowns allowed to RBs. And last time they played in week 5, Stevenson ran for 89 yards and a TD. I think he can do it again, especially now with Drake May here opening everything up, like just keeping defenses honest where they can actually pass the ball now. So give me Stevenson versus the Dolphins.
Yeah.
All right. On the bench now, Frosty.
So I have two options because my first guy's questionable. I want to sit DeAndre Swift against the Vikings. He's questionable, I think, with a hamstring right now.
Groin.
Um, it's a groin. So if he doesn't play, then I'm gonna sit Chuba Hubbard. For DeAndre Swift, though, the Vikings took over number one rush defense in terms of yards per game. They're giving up 74.4. I just don't think this Bears O line's going to be able to give DeAndre Swift any kind of holes to run through. And Chuba, Jonathan Brooks is going to come back. He's going to eat into those reps a little bit. I don't think he's going to come back and take over this backfield immediately from Chuba. Chuba's been great this year. I just temper expectations a little bit because I think Jonathan Brooks is going to come back. He'll probably take 5 to 10 touches away from Chuba this week.
Yeah, I think it's a little, if you drafted Jonathan Brooks, you're very disappointed in what you've gotten because he was drafted like the seventh or eighth round as a 4 weeks, and he's taking over the backfield. But we're now here in week 12 and he hasn't played a snap. And even when he does come back, he'll eat into the carries, but it'll be more of a split backfield, as you were saying. Like it'll be more of a split between them as he gets built up. I'm gonna stick with the same Bears Vikings game, and I'm gonna go to the other side. I was looking at DeAndre Swift, but I'm gonna go with Aaron Jones. The Bears defense hasn't been amazing against the run. They're kind of middle of the road, sitting at 18th against running backs in fantasy football so far. But Aaron Jones has been a little banged up playing recently. He's been playing with a lot of lingering injuries, and or Cam Akers has started to eat into his carries and his snap percentage. He's getting less and less snaps. Only played 53% of the snaps last week. He's been kind of mediocre recently in general. Hasn't found the end zone in quite a few weeks since week 7, and really just not been very consistent. His efficiency's dropped, losing touches. Not a good recipe for success long term for Aaron Jones.
Yeah, that all sounds correct. And I'm staying in the same game, but I'm gonna go with Swift. I guess I'll ride with you, Frosty. If Swift doesn't go, Chuba will be the go-to. But yeah, Minnesota's also allowing, as you mentioned, one of the best against the RBs, the best in allowing rushing yards. And they also are second fewest touchdowns allowed to RBs and the third fewest fantasy points to RBs. And for Swift specifically, he's been under 4 yards per carry in two of the last three games, second lowest snap percentage of the season for him last week. So it's not trending the right way, especially with this Bears offense over the last like 3, 4 weeks has been very questionable. So Swift riding the pine for me.
With Swift too, it's also like it's important to point out the fact that Roshan Johnson's going to steal touchdowns,
Good
and
point.
the fact that the Bears' schedule's been cupcake for running backs. Like Swift was like looked as a bust after 3 weeks when they played some tough teams against the run. But like some of the teams they've been playing, it just can't stop the run recently. So no wonder Swift has finally broken out. But I think he's gonna come back down to earth these next couple of weeks.
All right. Over to wide receivers, where last week me and Glover started Lad McConkey. Frosty started Cooper. Didn't go so well for Frosty, went well for Glover and I. And then we all sat downs, and it was all the wrong move. He was the highest scorer, I believe, on of anybody. Oh no, Johnny Smith, who Frosty started a tight end, went absolutely bonkers. So yeah, we all sat downs, didn't work out. Frosty started Cooper, didn't work out, and Glover and I started McConkey, and it did. So let's go to wide receivers now. Glover, who do you got?
I'm going right back to it. I'm going Lad McConkey. I think this is probably the last week he's going to be like a guy that you can really just consider as a startable guy, but it's the Ravens defense. We've seen it. He's the favorite target for Justin Herbert. They're airing the ball a lot more, and the Chargers aren't going to rely on the run. They're going to have to air the ball out, and they showed they could do it last week against the Bengals. I think they're going to do it again here against the Ravens. It all depends on how way the Ravens play him. They can play him well if they match him up correctly, but odds are they won't, so we'll see. But yeah, I figure Lyle will get a lot of targets and could get in the end zone here, and he's been pretty consistent these past few weeks.
Yeah, I do agree. I think this is probably the last week that
Yeah,
we let Lad be a start because I think he's inside the top 20 now for
he
wide
is.
receivers on the season.
18.
Yeah, he
He's
just got a
been very, very good. This whole Chargers passing attack has been really, really good since their bye week.
yeah,
So
I'm
we're letting it slide then? We're okay with that? Okay,
I'll let it slide, but I think this is the last week.
sure.
Um, I'm uh I'm going with DeAndre Hopkins. Starting against Carolina. Even though in their last game against the Bills, the volume didn't look good. 3 catches for 29 yards. He was still second on the team in receiving yards and I think tied for second with in receptions. He's still getting volume. And now he's going against a absolutely abysmal defense in Carolina. The last time they played a bad defense was Tampa Bay 3 weeks ago. 8 catches, 86 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I think DeAndre Hopkins is gonna get back up to that 5, 6, 7, 8 catch area.
yeah.
Hey,
Like against Panthers. Yeah,
I like where your head's at. I did the exact same thing. Um, it's yeah, last week the 47 snap percentage for him kind of concerning, but that's just especially when they were down. Like it kind of scares me a little bit, but yeah, like you mentioned, he was the team's second leading receiver, despite having 4 targets for 3 catches and 29 yards. Even the week previous against Denver, he was actually solid, like 4 catches for 56 yards, just didn't quite get the crazy amount of targets he did against Tampa Bay. But like you mentioned, kind of fading the Carolina Panthers is never a bad strat. So, DeAndre Hopkins, hopefully Pat Mahomes can figure it out. So let's go Hopkins.
Getting a little late here for Pat Mahomes to figure it out. He needs to figure it out fast.
Hey, well, we believe in him. We believe in him. All right. Sitting. Glover, who's riding the pine?
Jacoby Myers for me. It's the Pat Surtain effect. I think Jacoby Myers actually had a pretty good game. I'm just double checking, but I'm pretty sure he had a pretty good game against the Broncos last time. He had 13 points. Uh, but I don't think Pat Surtain's gonna let that happen twice. I really think this, and since that point, since that was week 5, I think since that point, this Broncos team and especially this Broncos defense is just continuing to get better. And I just don't see Jacoby Myers being able to get open. There's not going to be any Devontae Adams anymore to take away targets. Brock Bowers will get a lot of targets, but Pat Surtain is never going to cover Brock Bowers. So it'll be Jacoby Myers. And this Raiders team, I don't think they're really going to be in too close in this game regardless. And I don't think Gardner Minshew is going to be able to get the ball moving to anyone except Brock Bowers.
Yeah, I think it's Pat Surtain following him around has only not worked once this year, and it was when the Ravens put up like 45 points on
Yeah.
them or whatever it was. So
And that
like
was that was because Pat Surtain wasn't following Zay Flowers.
exactly. I'm not going the same route. I'm going Tank Dell. I'm sitting him against the Titans. He had an identical stat line to Nico Collins against the Cowboys. Both had 4 catches on 7 targets for 54 yards. Um, but I don't think that's going to happen again. I think that was the game where Nico was maybe going to have a little bit less target share. He was going to try and work his way back into the offense, especially because it was against a much worse defense than they're going to face in Tennessee. Tennessee has a very good passing defense. I believe right now they're number 1 in pass yards against per game. Tank has just kind of fallen a little bit off the radar for me, especially with Nico back. He had the opportunity with Nico out, didn't really take advantage of it, and now with Nico back, I don't see him getting back up there again.
Yeah, it's actually kind of crazy.
Well,
They had the exact same stat line.
I was
crazy that
looking at
is. Well, I for the wide receivers, I guess I liked where Glover said was that because I ended up going Jacoby Myers as well. It's kind of the Brock Bowers effect and the Pat Surtain effect. Like it's just like these two like forces combining to sit Jacoby Myers. Um, he had been solid. Literally 3 out of the last 4 games he's played in, especially 2 out of the last 3 where he had over 100 yards in week 9 against Cincy. But that Cincy defense is very different than this Denver defense, who just held the Falcons to 6 points, I believe.
Yeah.
And oh man, it's he was rough last week as well against Miami, who does have a better pass defense. Only 4 catches for 28 yards. But at the end of the day, it's Gardner Minshew, and he seems to only like one guy in the offense, and that's Mr. Bowers. So, yeah, Pat Surtain effect, Brock Bowers effect,
Yeah,
sit Jacoby Myers.
pretty much. Pretty
I
much.
mean, I guess the Gardner Minshew could be the Gardner
A
Minshew
little
effect could be
Gardner Minshew
sprinkled.
on top.
Oh, well, what garnish? Gardner Minshew garnish?
Garnish Minshew.
Oh, sprinkled a little of that on top.
Uh,
All right. Let's move over to tight ends where last week Glover and I started Conklin. Boo.
yeah.
Didn't go out. Frosty started Jonnu Smith. Hey, it all worked out for him. 28 points for Jonnu Smith. And then sits, we all cashed Frosty and I on Mark Andrews and Glover on Evan Ingram. This week, however, Frosty, who are you starting? Is it Jonnu Smith again?
It's not. I thought about going back to it again. I'm not. I kind of alluded to it in the last episode. I'm starting Luke Schoonmaker against
Oh
Washington.
yeah.
In the second half, against Houston after Jake Ferguson got ruled out with a concussion. He had 10 targets, 6 receptions. I if Cooper Rush stays the whole game at quarterback again, which they've already said he's going to be the starter. They said it's a long shot for Jake Ferguson to play. I think Schoonmaker should get a bunch of looks underneath in this offense because they're not using Rico Dowdle in the pass game very often, and CeeDee Lamb is really the only other guy that's seeing any targets right now.
Yeah, I think that's fair. They were throwing the ball to some weird guys in that game, man. There was some weird players catching the ball, and I was like, where did you come from? Like,
They
where
made
are these
Ryan Flournoy my start this week.
Flournoy and Brevin Span Ford? Like, what are we doing? That was a little weird. For my start, I gotta redeem myself. I don't know what I was thinking with Tyler Conklin. I'll be honest, that was just dumb. I didn't even like I was in a position where I needed to find a desperate tight end to start, and I didn't even look at Tyler Conklin. I was like, wow, why would I do that? I don't know what I was thinking putting him down. I'm gonna go with the guy I did end up picking up who actually did really well for me. That's Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz, it was a lot on that last drive where Jane Daniels just hit Zach Ertz like 17 times in a row and got him for the touchdown and the 2-point convert. I was loving that. But Zach Ertz has been a great guy for Jane Daniels to target. He's really loved him. He's really been leaning on him most of the season, with the exception of the 1 week against the Giants, where Ertz played under 50% of the snaps and only had one catch on one target. But other than that, he gets tons of work, tons of targets, and it depends who the Cowboys want to use over Shown. But like if Eric Kendricks is the guy in coverage near Zach Ertz, I don't trust Eric Kendricks at all. I take Zach Ertz 10 out of 10 times, and he's been a good red zone threat. And I don't expect Terry McLaurin to be locked up, but if Terry McLaurin's a little more unavailable with Trayvon Diggs playing decent, because he played solid against the Texans. Nico Collins didn't have anything crazy, except for the first play that got called back. Maybe a quieter day for Terry, and in that case, the targets typically just go straight to Zach Ertz.
Yeah, good. I think both are good options there. I think I'm going a bit more risky than people would typically want to go to. Like this guy is tight end 34 right now, but I'm gonna go Theo Johnson, the Canadian. Uh, yeah, like I mentioned, currently wide receiver 34. He's seen 6 targets in each of the last 2 weeks, even finding the end zone 2 weeks ago. And honestly, it can't get much worse with Tommy DeVito in. It could possibly be better. Uh, and Tampa Bay is one of the worst teams against tight ends as well. All near the bottom of the league in yards, touchdowns, and fantasy points allowed to the position. This is one of these ones I just got a feeling. I thought about maybe a Will Disley who's been turning it up lately, a Zach Ertz, a Schoonmaker who could jump right into that Ferguson production. But you know what? No, standing on my own 2 feet. Theo Johnson.
I'm gonna be on with Theo Johnson. His snap share and his game logs, they remind me a lot of what we got with Kate Otten before he's broken out this year in terms of on the field for every snap, always available, just not quite getting the same target share. But when he gets the targets, he makes good on them, and I think he's gonna be a real promising future piece for them. But like he's playing upwards of 90% of the snaps in most games, getting the full workload as a tight end one, and I would expect that to continue.
I agree. I started him. All right. Let's move over to the sits, Frosty.
I'm sitting Tucker Kraft against San Fran. He got blanked in the last game, only 1 target coming off the bye week. It just seems like Kraft is kind of becoming the lost guy now. Christian Watson started to establish himself. Dobbs has established himself. Jaden Reed's established himself. It feels like Kraft just has been lost. He was great early on in the season. I think he was up to like tight end 3 or 4 on the year at some point. He's still tight end 11, but it's still just kind of banking on a lot of that early year production. I just don't he just hasn't been producing the same way, especially after last week. I don't think you can confidently put him in your lineup.
That's fair. I'm trying to pivot real quick.
I can go. I can go if you like. What if you want
Yeah,
a couple of
you
minutes?
go.
Okay.
I'm trying to pivot.
I'd be interested to hear why you're pivoting, but
Yeah.
I am going with Cole Kmet. of the Chicago Bears against the Minnesota Vikings. I'm sitting two Bears this week. Main reason is that he's the number four option, probably. And ever since he went crazy in London, in week six, where he had two touchdowns, five catches for 70 yards, he's been relatively quiet over the last 4 weeks. He's had in these last 4 weeks, he's had 8 targets for 6 catches for 69 yards, zero touchdowns, and it's totaled 14.9 points. That is not very good. And then, as I was kind of talking about with DeAndre Swift, as we both were Frosty, the Bears offense just is not good right now, and maybe it improves, but against a team like the Vikings, where it's an overall solid defense, better against the run, but I mean, with Komet being the number four option, it really kind of limits his value, and he hasn't been showing the production in this last little bit anyways. So he is on the field for a majority of the time, which is scary. And he could break one off at some point, but I'm pretty comfortable sitting Cole Kmet, who is somehow wide tight end 13. But that's like you were just talking about, Frosty, for your guy, for your sit. It's from the early season production where he had 2 games over 20 points. So
Yeah, that's valid. So I'm pivoting. So I was gonna go with TJ Hawkinson because he had been splitting the snaps still. He was still in a 50-50 committee with Josh Oliver, and he hadn't really been getting much outside of the game we all started him for against Jacksonville. And Chicago's defense is pretty good, but Josh Oliver has a sprained ankle, and if he's not playing, Hawkins is going to get a ton of work. So I'm getting away from that. I'm going to ride with you, Frosty. I'm going to go with Tucker Kraft. I think, yeah, he hasn't been as great, though. There's lots of mouths to feed in the offense. And San Fran's got a tough defense, especially in the middle of the field. It's going to be really tough for him to work that route. And after dropping a goose egg against Chicago, don't have a ton of faith in him to bounce back against a tough San Fran defense.
And we mentioned the Pat Surtain effect. There's a Fred Warner
The,
effect too.
Fre the Fred Warner effect is also pretty big. He's a hard guy to get past in coverage.
all right, well, here we are. That's the end. So as we head into week 12, I currently sit in first, 36 and 30. Frosty in second at 34 and 31. And
Yeah,
Glover, what the
y-
28 and 38.
It's kind of been like I'm staying par since a hole at the start where I shot like 64. Like I've been holding pace, but that's not good enough. Into the first 2 weeks have really just sewered me for the rest of
you
the run.
did starting 3-9 was a a
It was
tough
really
look.
it's really tough to build back after a 3-9 start. And I've been like 3-3 the rest of the way, basically. But yeah.
So are we stopping these after play, like before playoffs? Or are we gonna have to, or are we just pivoting or changing the scoring in playoffs?
What do you mean? In
I
fantasy
mean,
play,
yeah.
nothing really changes. You just the
I
game
mean, I guess. Okay. Okay.
stats are still the same.
Yeah, sure. All right. I was just wondering. I see why you want to go longer, gives you more
More
of a
time,
chance.
man. I need it.
Oh, okay. Let's move over to the best bet portion of the podcast, where we started off bad, but we've been getting better as the season has gone on. So where were you guys feeling for this week? We were talking about it last episode where uh honestly, I'm not sure. There's quite a bit of easier matchups, but the spreads are reflecting that. So Frosty, where did you end up leaning?
Uh, I'm taking Lions minus 7.5 against the Colts. They could put up another 50 burger on this defense. The
Yeah.
Colts defense is not good at all. I think the Colts will be able to score points a lot better than the Jags did, but I just don't think the Lions could again go down and score on every single drive they have for like the fourth time this season. I think the Lions to win by a touchdown is as close to being a sure thing as you can get.
Yeah.
Wow. As close as a sure thing as you can get. I better not. That's out there now.
I'm confident. To me, this is the best team in football by a
Oh
large
yeah.
margin.
Oh yeah.
against a team that has a well below average defense, I think they should be able to just smack them around.
I looked at it. I didn't go with it, but I did look at it. Like they could just kill every team they play rest of the season.
They could.
Um, I'm gonna go. I got two sitting here. But I'm gonna go with maybe this one's maybe riskier. They're both divisional games. They're both gonna be tight. But I'm gonna go with Broncos. They're -5.5 against the Raiders. They just destroyed the Falcons, and the Raiders are a significantly worse team. This Broncos team keeps getting better and better, and the Dolphins just killed them by multiple scores. Like I really don't see a world where this isn't again a win by at least a touchdown. I really would say that this is a pretty safe bet for to be at least a touchdown lead by the end of the game for the Denver Broncos.
The only thing that scares me a little bit with that is how much better the Raiders pass rush is than the Falcons, because that was the one thing is Bo Nix never got pressured
Yeah.
the entire game. It could be a different story, but he's also looked better and better every single game he's played this year.
And since Christian Wilkins is still out, the Raiders pass rush has resorted back to its one-dimensional ways of Max Crosby or bust. So they'll find ways to get around that, I imagine.
I think both of those are very solid. What do you guys think of Eagles 2.5 over the Rams?
I was looking at it. The main reason I didn't pick it is because it's Nick Sirianni in prime time on the road. I just don't trust that. I think the Rams, I think, are a way better coached team. I think the Rams could pull off the upset. They're at home.
Yeah, but home in LA is not a home game. I'm sure there will be a good amount of Philly fans there, if not more than Rams fans.
Yeah, but the other thing is like maybe this is just kind of crazy, but I think the Eagles are just due to have just a dud game. Like with just that, like they've been playing so well, and it's hard to not like appreciate that or whatever. But with Nick Sirianni at the helm, I still don't trust him. So I think they're due for a game where they just fall asleep at the wheel.
Hmm. I'll go with the Lions then. You guys talked me out of the Eagles a little bit just because they've been so good, but hopefully if the Lions are gonna dud, it's not gonna be this week. But yeah, Indianapolis, I mean, even though they looked better than they have all year, A-Rich, one of his best, probably his best game of the year last week. So I'll go Lions 7.5. Rossi, so you're locking in the same?
Yeah, yeah, I'm locking the same thing.
Did you guys send over best bets for last week, or was I the one who sent one in?
Let
I
me
did
see if
not.
I did. I don't think I did. I did not.
Damn. So my best bet hit, and I was hoping I could cash it.
What do you
I
have?
didn't send it. Oh, okay, go
Mine
ahead.
was Rams -3.5 against the Patriots. And I don't know how the spread was that close last week, but yeah, the Rams kind of killed them.
My like I didn't send it, but I was pretty confident the Texans were gonna win by a touchdown. I believe the spread was 6.5, 7.5. So I would have gone Texans. I didn't officially send it, but Scout's honor. I would have got it right.
I was looking at a couple last week and I don't think any of them hit. The one I was probably leaning to was Atlanta 1.5 +1.5 to be completely honest.
Yeah, that
So
didn't hit.
that's yeah, that they were a little off.
Are we gonna count these, or are we just gonna wash the week?
Why not?
All right, I'll
I'll
put
take
them.
Atlanta one +1.5. That was probably what I was gonna end up doing anyways.
All right, I'll put them on the scoreboard.
All right. Well, that does it. After we missed last week, feels good to get back into the rhythm of these. We messed up, but we are back. It was the first episode we missed, so
We've been
honestly,
good all
pretty good.
year.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. We're
yeah.
the Hive Podcast Network is on our shoulders, and our backs, and anything else you could use to carry. Yeah.
It was getting a little sore. We needed a day to kind of like, just get the
Yeah.
back feeling good.
Yeah, all right. Well, that'll do it. Unless there's anything else you guys want to say, any notes, anything else want to end us off here? Glover, I know you want to say one more thing.
Um, we didn't talk about it last episode. good thing Daniel Jones finally got benched. The
Ah,
podcast
oh,
network's number
thank
one
God.
narrative, that our number one narrative over the offseason has cashed. So
All right. Well, best bet. I
there we
wonder if
go.
will Daniel Jones be benched in 2024?
Hammer it.
All right. Well, thank you for watching. Again, like, subscribe, comment if you think we're dumb, if you think those are bad picks, or if you agree. Be nice, be mean, don't matter. Just comment, like, and subscribe. Check out the rest of the channel if you want to see more of our previous episodes. We have some NHL content on the channel as well. But that'll do it. So, Cody Wiles, Logan Glover, Andrew Foster here, and as always, keep it buzzing.